Hello, this is Resource, the number 4, CARE. And Resource for CARE is a resource for seniors, their adult children, and caregivers, where we interview professionals in the Memphis area regarding topics of interest. So today we have Dr. Casie Keaton. Welcome.
Thank you so much, ML. Thank you for having me today. Pleasure
My
to
pleasure,
be here.
my pleasure. And we're going to talk about the impact of hearing loss on cognitive awareness.
Yes,
And
and overall function.
I was very interested to hear, especially that hearing is not a function of age. I always thought it was. Tell me a little bit about that.
I love to debunk that myth because that's one of the things I'm working to change most in the work that we do is the stigma associated with hearing loss. So what I say is hearing loss has very little to do with the amount of birthdays that we have been privileged to have on this earth. It has more to do with exposure to loud noise. That's the number one factor in hearing loss. And then second, genetics. Just some of us are going to have better hearing than others. There's all kinds of medical conditions that are like that. So if you're experiencing changes to your hearing, you are not old.
Right.
It is just the cards were dealt. And the good news is we've got plenty we can do to address it.
Yes. I think, too, people have a little bit of a stigma of wearing a aided hearing device of some sort. But technology is pretty advanced now, right?
The sophistication that we have now in terms of being able to address a person's hearing loss, it's night and day. And the best thing I can come up with in terms of the stigma associated with it, because I got to admit I'm pretty biased when it comes to it, is just, when hearing technology first came out, and I use that term loosely, decades ago, it was so primitive. It only was appropriate for those patients who had the most severe of hearing losses.
Right.
So that's just a whole different category of patients. The technology we have now is so sophisticated, we can help so many more people, children, hearing loss that happens at every stage of life, and you don't even see it. You don't even know it's there.
Exactly.
I have some, cute stories where I'll have, couples where, one patient will decide to get them and say, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm not going to tell my spouse. And it's weeks. And they don't ever notice, it's there.
That there's a device.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
So what I say is that little tiny piece of plastic, that little device is far less noticeable than going around asking everyone to repeat constantly.
Yes.
That's what ages us.
Sure.
That's where the stigma can really come in.
We'll delve into the cognitive part in a second, but do you find that people are, after you do work with them, still resistant to using any device that you recommend? And how can we help them get through that?
I think that's an excellent segue into the cognitive health piece of this conversation. So for many years, I would see patients in the clinic who suspected they would have some kind of hearing loss. Sitting down with them, working through their medical history, having a hard time recalling just, even recent tests they've had. And then when they are able to get to the correct information, the amount of time that it takes them to get there was really concerning. So I'm looking at, how much of this problem is, not being able to hear? And then how much of it is cognitive decline. Yeah. So we kind of had our cross our fingers, hope and see approach where we knew using the tests we had at the time to address the hearing piece, the effects that can have on a person in restoring a lot of those cognitive pieces, but we had no way to measure it. And so it was purely anecdotal. And there I am sitting in front of them, and I see this huge change. but
Yeah.
I don't have any way to quantify it
Sure.
or any way
Or
to
data
talk
to
about
measure
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of me as an observer,
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of looking at me like, okay. But
And you're all excited you see a change.
Oh!
But yeah.
But it's also kind of a touchy subject because
Oh.
where I don't have any objective data,
Sure.
it's my perception.
Sure.
So that's all changed. We have
Okay.
this very sophisticated cognitive test that we can do in the
Okay.
office where we can get a baseline before we do any treatment or correction to their hearing.
That's
and
wonderful.
then we have engaged in a study. We're working with UT Health looking at the effects of fitting hearing aids and then the improvement to cognition in as little as 2 months.
Wow.
Guys, we're seeing scores double.
Oh my
and all we
goodness.
did is fit hearing aids
Wow.
and fit them well. So
That's-
it's just awesome.
And how recent is that development?
So within the last 2 to 3 years, the
Okay.
testing's become available.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been very surprised as a profession.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen that many practices adopt that and include
They
that
haven't
in.
embraced it.
No. So
Interesting.
yeah, the testing is
Right.
costly
Oh, I see.
to invest in, but we've found the benefit and the implications to our patients have far outweighed the
Sure.
cost.
Right.
And then getting back to what we can do to help our patients continue
Yeah.
using
yeah.
the treatment.
To accept where they're at. Yeah.
Right. That testing has been hugely helpful
Okay.
because now we have data to support this is why you should continue doing this.
Right.
And
It's not just making your wife happy.
There you go. There you go. Yes, which is very important.
Right. It is. Well, we went on to downplay that.
Very no, definitely. But in terms of compliance,
Yes.
that's been a huge tool in helping us to
Okay.
demonstrate that to patients and say, okay,
Yes.
I do need to stick with this,
Right.
Because it matters.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I heard you talk earlier today, and you mentioned Parkinson's, and I think another
Dementia.
and dementia.
Mm-hmm.
What is the connection with Parkinson's or
With hearing
yeah?
loss.
Mm-hmm.
So what the research boils down to is a term that we refer to as listening effort. And just
Okay.
essentially what that means is how hard the brain is having to work to hear
Yes.
behind the scenes. Because we're really fortunate in communication. If we do have some decrease to our hearing, if we're talking to each other face to face, we've
Yes.
got facial cues.
Yes.
Not that we read
Body
lips.
language,
Yeah,
face cues.
context in
Yes.
a conversation.
Maybe a little bit of lip reading.
Yeah. Masks were a real issue for people during
Oh,
the time
my
we had to do
goodness.
that.
I
It
didn't even think of that.
really
Oh, my
revealed
goodness.
a lot of
Yes.
those issues. But the brain has to, when there's decreased hearing, make use of all those cues.
Sure.
And what we know is that mental arithmetic, that workaround that the brain is having to do, that is the real sinister factor
Yeah.
in contributing to those diseases.
I see.
So what is, my message of hope and what I need your help in
Right.
helping us to get the word out and educate people is, we can change that.
Yes.
We have data now beyond my anecdotal stuff in the
Yes.
clinic that shows that we can change the course of these diseases
Yes.
just by correcting hearing loss.
Just by allowing people to connect better.
Yes.
Yes,
And taking that strain off
Sure.
of the brain.
Yeah, I mean, I work as a life coach with people, and
Amazing.
often people are critical of themselves when they're learning something new or not mastering something. And I come to believe, I don't have any data to back me up, but that we all have a certain amount of emotional energy.
Yeah.
And that if we have to spend it in some other way, like focusing or having to do a workaround with hearing and focus on body language and other things, then it's just natural that it's coming from somewhere else. So, I have no data to back up this conclusion that I've come to, but I believe we all have a certain amount of emotional energy, and when we're learning something new or we're having to do some type of workaround, like you mentioned, that it's coming from somewhere. That means that we're less connected in some other way.
Leaves us less on the table to be able to devote to
be
that.
Present,
Yes.
to be in the moment, to feel our feelings appropriately.
I've got two examples of that.
Okay.
One, I think it's something that often the patients I work with will take for granted. When we're engaged in conversation, there's that, that eye contact.
Yes.
And particularly when we're in noise and it's you're really straining to hear, your brain can't help but check out a little bit.
Sure.
And so the person you're engaged in conversation with can sense where your gaze is looking off.
Your expression changes, your eyes go up to the corner. Yeah.
So you're not getting by anyone.
Yes.
It's very apparent when you're not able to stay engaged there.
Make that connection.
And then that can make the conversation partner feel, well, wait a minute, do you even care what I'm talking about, or are you even paying attention to me? And
well, especially if we get a little disengaged. I mean, I'm guilty of, everybody is.
Sure.
And then you end up asking a question about something they had just said.
Sure.
And clue that you may not be focused on what they're saying as closely.
Or what I find a lot of times with decreased hearing is actually, in reality, they're working 10 times harder to hang and just not able to. And so what I try to do with families is, give people, some credit in those, communication partners is, really, they're actually trying.
Right.
But it's just, what I say is their brain is just not getting enough information to be able to, what I say, it's not even fair.
Right. So this is a sales pitch for those people who have hearing loss to be able to connect better with your family, and recognition for how hard these, people are working. So have patience.
Yes, please. Yes. And I think, in terms of the dynamic of the relationship, I see a lot of times the person with hearing loss feels like, I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want to, put them out by asking to repeat. So there's that, smile and nod. And the other person is just, beyond frustrated because they want to engage with that person.
Right.
We want more than a smile and a nod. I really want to know what you think. So it's not burdening you. It's they want it just as badly.
Sure.
So.
And I think if people understand, hopefully through hearing this and coming to see you, that they are working that hard, that maybe it'll just allow them to give more grace.
Right. Grace. There you go. On both sides.
Yes.
Another really neat thing further to that point is I love when this happens, and it happens, surprisingly more often than I expect. But I'll fit a person with new devices, and I've had where they come in, we do a 1 week follow-up, and they say, I don't know what you've done, but why do I have more energy?
Interesting.
And it speaks exactly to your point. And
they're not diverting their energy.
Yeah, they've got more gas left in the tank to be more present.
Yeah,
and to make those people feel seen and heard. So I love that.
I also through my husband has ringing tinnitus, and sometimes it's worse than others.
Sure.
And I find that it makes him irritable.
Yes.
So can you talk to that? What is it? I only know through him, so I'm sure you have other examples.
Yeah, so what the literature correlates that aspect of tinnitus to is chronic pain.
Oh, okay.
And so chronic pain is affected by a myriad of factors. How well we've slept, what kind of stressors are going on
Sure.
at
How
the
much
time.
water we drink.
Yes, yes, all of those things. So just like chronic pain, tinnitus can behave similarly.
Okay.
And so it can be this ebb and flow.
Is there pain associated with
Some
it?
people do have
Really?
pain,
I didn't know that.
and there's different
Okay.
causes for that. So important to figure out where it's coming from, because
Right.
it's different for different people. But it can be such a personal condition and how it affects people. But I find again, much like chronic pain, the person is, what we often see is, suffering to a degree in silence,
Yeah.
and they think that they're hiding it.
Yes.
And over again, people that are nearest and dearest and close to them, no.
Yeah.
No,
we
we
know.
know
Yeah,
when
we do. Yeah.
you're not.
When it's bothering
Yeah.
you. Yes. Yeah.
And so all the more reason that we need to figure this out.
So, we're hoping that seniors, caregivers, adult children of seniors are going to see this or hear this. What is something that we haven't talked about that you would want to convey to them?
What comes to mind first, ML, is I'll have a very well-meaning, loving family member, caregiver,
Right.
bring a loved one in.
The victim in.
There you go. And
Kicking and screaming,
yes.
maybe? I don't know. I'm making this story up. I'm
No,
adding a chapter to your story.
You're doing a great job. And so there's frustration experienced on both sides.
Yeah.
And so this person may already have hearing instruments not fit by us, but elsewhere in the world. And maybe they're not wearing them or, not benefiting from them. And that loved one is, high level of frustration is, okay, you have these things. Why aren't you wearing them?
Right.
What I would like to communicate and convey to those, loved ones and family members is often when the patient is not wearing devices, it's not out of spite.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
to
not
make,
to be difficult.
There you go. It's
Yeah.
not to make everybody's life, more challenging. There's a reason, and that can start with maybe it doesn't fit well, maybe it's
Right.
uncomfortable, or it's falling out all the time, and they're scared to death they're going to lose it.
Yes.
Or simply when they put them in, they don't feel like they're hearing any better. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Or they put them in, they're so noisy, makes them so nervous and anxious.
Right.
That's not helping. So just helping to understand both sides of the conversation and let's fix those things.
Yeah, that really makes sense to me. In care, in owning a home care business for over
I'm sure
a
you've
decade.
seen it.
I saw that a lot with the behaviors that came from dementia
Yeah.
or Alzheimer's, where family members do get impatient or hurt even emotionally because their loved one may be fine one day and not fine another. And
Emotions are high.
what the experts tell us is look for the root cause. Look for, do a little investigation of, it's not just, like you said, being difficult.
Right.
There could be
There's an
stimulus, there could be, lack of sleep, there could be medication mess up, all different things. So what I hear you saying is it's similar with hearing, that there's reasons why they're
Right.
doing or not doing.
Right. But I'm sure you experienced, this can be such emotionally charged situations.
Yeah.
And I can speak to it personally. And it just, there's, sensitivity doesn't quite cover it. But
Yes.
there's just a lot of feelings going around. So
Absolutely.
what we find is a lot of times we can come in as sort of a third party.
Yes.
And help to remove some of the emotion
Right.
surrounding this issue that's causing such frustration.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times for the patient, it comes down to, in the cases with, cognitive issues, dementia and Parkinson's, is they've lost so much control over their day-to-day.
Yes.
So, not wearing their hearing aids is a way that they can dig
Control
their heels
their
in.
environment.
And it's just one way. So if we can figure out another substitute, another way that we can help them to get that control back and exert.
That makes complete sense to me.
And then help them to understand how the hearing devices help them to achieve that. It's a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody.
I think with the data you have and the reasoning you have, they could see what's in it for me instead of just doing something because a family member wants it.
You got it.
You know, they want something out of me, so therefore I'm going to hold back because it's uncomfortable for me, or it's not pleasurable, or whatever, you know, like you said, it doesn't fit well, whatever the issue is. That happens. I mean, when you lose, well, for the caregivers, and you all know this already, caregiving is the most rewarding and the most challenging at the same time. But being infirmed in some way, the lack of control really impacts their personality, their mood, a lot of things.
Absolutely. And just, where there are those sensitivities, you have, two parties that love and adore each other, beyond all explanation.
Right.
And, they could say, the sky is purple and, it hurt.
Yes.
So just being able to act as that mediary and helping families to navigate those situations.
That's beautiful.
Oh, it's needed.
Yeah, it
and
is.
We love to do it.
Tell me a little bit, I think we're winding down. Tell me a little bit about where you're located and how people, we're going to mention it on the advertising, but where are you located and how can people reach you?
Sure. So 2 locations, an office in Collierville, just off the square, and then we have an office practice in East Memphis, just off of Spotswood, between Colonial and Perkins. So those 2 parts of town currently, but looking to we've been asked to grow and expand, so we're working on those efforts currently.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what would be the best way to learn more about, go ahead and call, or little birdie told me you have a brand new website.
We do. So proud of that. As you know, ML, this can often be a labor of love.
Yes. You feel like you gave birth to something, right?
Yes. Many, many months. So we're really proud of how it turned out.
Good.
Thanks to, Paradigm Development helped us to put that together. I'm really proud of that. So it's wehelpyouthrive.care.
Okay.
So a lot of good introductory information there. Our Facebook page, we try to really keep that current.
Okay.
And typically post 2-3 times a week there. So there's a lot of information available there. But then, of course, just call in the office.
Sure.
I have got an amazing team. We have an amazing team that just goes just often knocked over is the words. The amount of time and the kindness that our team will spend with someone on the phone to make sure that their questions are answered and that everything gets addressed.
And I thought I heard you mention earlier before we were on the air that you have another doctor as well as yourself, right?
Yes. So Dr. Haley Freeman.
Okay.
She also has a specialty in tinnitus. She is cochlear implant certified. So we have those services at our practice as well.
That's great.
And then we have been selected to provide one of the most innovative treatments for tinnitus in the area.
Okay.
At this time, within several states. It received FDA approval last year, but it's called linear tinnitus treatment. And we're seeing really great results.
Oh, that's
and she's
interesting.
doing a fabulous job with that program.
With that, are you able to help people that you weren't able to help before? Is that what the...
So how we talk about it is it's another resource. It's another tool in our toolkit. We have great success rates with the current therapies that we have, but this is just another approach that we're able to offer patients that can be better candidates for.
Okay, so we might be reaching some grandchildren or grandparents who want to coach their grandchildren. What should we be doing to protect our hearing now?
Love it.
Not that we want to put you out of business.
No,
but the whole
trust
point
me.
is, to have people protect their hearing.
Yes, of course. Remember, genetics, those factors
Yes.
are always going to be there. So we always want to protect our hearing. So simple as doing lawn work, weed eating, concerts. There's some great apps available where you can download, they're called dosimeters, that you can measure the
Can
loudness.
you get an app on your phone? Oh, I love it.
Actually, the Apple Watch now has a feature that it's a little yellow icon that you can press it, and it will pretty accurately measure the loudness of the environment and let you know, okay, we're heading into harmful territory, protect your hearing, or we're okay.
Right. My husband, I'm sure, from being in a band, is his issue, and his brother has it as well.
And what we talk about is, he was doing what he loved.
I know.
And we wouldn't change that.
Right.
But we're just gonna,
warning. All right, we're coming to the close, so I just want to let everybody know that Resource for Care, that's the number 4, care.com. There'll be links on there to every podcast and every YouTube channel posting, as well as a list of professionals in the Memphis area that I know and trust. So use it as a resource.